Welcome to If I Did It, a show where we have PR experts who analyze the events going on today in the MMA world and the world beyond. With us is Kid Nate of Bloody Elbow and Eugene S. Robinson. Eugene,
Ozzy.com. You gotta give it his plug. Come on.
Man, we're falling apart. 30 seconds in, we're falling apart.
This thing's got a hell of a handbasket.
so Nate, could you introduce yourself and let everybody know why they should be listening to the PR advice that you have to proffer?
All right. Well, not only are we the usual gang of MMA idiots that babble about fights we don't know anything about, we're also press and public affairs and public relations experts with decades of
seasoned
experience.
media professionals.
That's right. I personally have worked for John Kerry, Senator Mark Warner. I worked with MoveOn.org. I helped take down Tom DeLay. I've done corporate consulting and crisis communications for 15 years. Clients, Fortune 500 clients, including AT&T, Firestone Tires, Southwest Airlines, Monsanto, et cetera, yada, yada, yada. Eugene, your resume.
I like eggs. That's all I got. No. I've been a journalist since 1977. My first paid gig, 1977. I've done PR for various musical acts forever, as well as continued public relations for me in the publication of my book, Fight Everything You Ever Want to Know About Asking, About Afraid You Get Asking for Asking, published on HarperCollins 2007. My novel, my play, translated in multiple languages. So this side of the mediascape, you will find no greater seasoned professional. And one of the first to write about MMA in a national publication.
A pioneer.
And Lexi, your resume?
So I am an attorney who also consults with various media corporations, individuals, and startups, as well as nonprofits, on their various legal and business issues and concerns. I've been trying to solve crises and successfully solving crises for different individuals and corporations for the past 20 years. Speaking of solving crises,
hey, I need some legal help.
No free legal help, Eugene.
Then call me now. Well, call me after the show. So, speaking of help, Eugene, you're Nobuyuki Sakabara, former Pride boss, allegedly driven out of MMA for using Yakuza goons to threaten a fight manager over Fedor jumping to a competing promotion for the 2003 New Year's Eve show. You're returning to action and you sign Fedor. Mm-hmm. Is he your good luck charm?
Is Fedor a good looking? Well, you know what? I was there at Bellator when they brought him out, and I have to say, not only was it a genuine surprise, I mean, genuine surprise enough so that I was screaming long enough and hard enough that I almost passed out from lack of oxygen in my seat. But I have to say, the queasy feeling that you get when some of the others have said, I'm going to make a comeback, or the queasy feeling I got when I heard, as I did sitting in the stands, Ken Shamrock is going to fight next year. That queasy feeling that I got, I did not have when they made the Fedor announcement. You know, these guys have been going pretty much on nonstop schedules for upward of 10 years. For a guy to want to take 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, 12 months out is perfectly reasonable. If he had waited 3 years, I'd have been a little bit more skeptical, but I think this is a win.
How about you, Nate?
I gotta say, first off, Eugene was completely backwards in his analysis of the Fedor thing and the collapse of Pride yesterday on Knuckle Up. Pride was not taken by the UFC. The UFC was taken by Pride. The UFC paid millions of dollars for a tape library they could have had for hundreds of thousands, and they thought they were getting a functioning organization. The Pride team was running pro wrestling promos out of those offices until the UFC finally gave up and threw their hands in the air. So you can't work with the Yakuza. They're always going to get the advantage of you. And I don't know the whole thing with Sakara, blah, 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 whatever.
You can spell it, but you can't pronounce it.
I cannot say it. Is whether or not he can get on one of the big three channels in Japan or not. That was what Pride's bread and butter was the deal with Fuji TV. They lost it because of the magazine exposés about his antics with the Yakuza. If he can get those deals back, they're gold. MMA is back in Japan. It completely changes the world dynamics for the MMA business. Japan used to be MMA's largest market in the world. I don't know that it can be bigger than the U.S. again, but it can be very, very big if it's on the right TV networks. If not, it's all pretty moot, and I don't care how many people's heads you hold guns to, you're not bringing it back without Fuji TV.
So if you're Fedor, arguably the greatest MMA fighter that ever lived. Why are you coming out of retirement, and why to fight for this guy's promotion, which hasn't even started up yet? Eugene.
Yeah, well, Kid Nate is making the universal sign for simoleons, cash. I would say that, I think people will find, much like older men, that retirement is overrated. I can see Fedor in the first. I'm going to retire. I'm going to spend time with my wife and my kids. I'm going to go to church and I'm going to pray. And 12 days later, he's like, I'm retired. I'm hanging out with the wife and the kids and going to church. And 2 weeks later, the guy's like, Jesus Christ, how moi? How the fuck do I get out of this? This is not like a guy with a sinecure like Matt, I hate everybody Hughes or Chuck Liddell. This is a guy who's like, now I'm cut loose. What am I going to do? I'm going to show up at the gym. Hey, how you guys doing? What's going on? I don't think money is one of his concerns. I think, finding something significant to do for the rest of your life. You're talking about guys who are maybe not that imaginative to begin with. What is he going to paint? Like Tony Bennett? He's going to paint? What is he going to do? He's going to make a movie? No. This was a reasonable return, and that's why it doesn't feel queasy. I think money, sure, is an instant factor, but you notice you didn't hear anything about Finkelstein. There was none of this overwrought shit that goes on with the bald one and Zuffa when they start talking about Fedor, and it's just this endless wrangle. It was effortless, easy. I don't know if the price was right, and it's also taken a nice little ice pick to the bag that is the heavyweight division in the UFC, because fundamentally these roads are going to cross, right? Something's going to happen. You got to keep the heavyweights happy, because they go, fuck it, I want to fight the best in the world. He's going to tear through heavyweights in Bellator pretty effectively, and so so who's going to Verdum is going to say, I'm the heavyweight. No, you're not.
But here's the thing, Eugene, which is strange, is the fact that he's actually not allegedly a Bellator fighter. He's on a show that's going to be on the same network.
But I guarantee you they'll have talent sharing. Although Bellator doesn't have any heavyweights worth speaking of. He could fight Bobby Lashley. Czech Congo. Those are good fights for Fedor, though. He doesn't want to fight anybody really tough. He wants to take some punks and beat him in a ring, not a cage. He never adjusted to the cage. That's good for him. I think he's comfortable in Japan. That's where he's had his biggest success. I think he's comfortable working with Sakayama, blah, blah, whatever. And I also think Eugene's point about Finkelstein, I think that's the reason for the layoff. This is completely uninformed speculation. I don't have any back channels info. But I think his deal with M1 finally expired, and he was free of that albatross and free to negotiate himself as a free agent, not as part of this company. And that's what opened up the pipelines, and that's what got us Fedor. But we need to keep moving because so much happened yesterday. Let's talk about Faber and Bang.
So, Eugene, your Bang Ludwig, your former boss at Team Alpha Male, goes on the MMA Hour and rips you for a solid hour, accusing you of being a money-grubbing, sexist, and racist bully.
Clubhouse cancer.
That's right. So how would you respond if you were Dwayne Bang Ludwig?
Dwayne, in professional parlance, I think we would say that Dwayne Bang Ludwig is fucked. You can't. There's certain things that you can shake, but he's got the trifecta. He's got the hat trick of sexist, racist, team destroying, money grubber with emotional problems. How the fuck do you fight your way out of that hole? You just don't. You know what you do? You take a page from the book of Lloyd Irvin and wait for it to all blow over. There's no climbing out of that hole, because now, it's like, have you stopped beating your wife? Now, to beat back the sexism charge, he's got to start training women, which he really doesn't want to do. However, what woman would train with him now, given his past pre-election for not training with women? So you have to get a real fucking quisling, a real collaborator who's going to say, no, he's an all right guy. I trained with Dwayne, knowing the guy's heart's not in it. And the racist thing, how's that going to work? Everybody you trained who fights a black fighter has now got to deal with this kind of race pressure. It's become a really weird freaking thing. And on top of that, is this a guy that you want crying and putting a touch on you for an extra 50 or extra 100 around the water cooler when you bring him in for a seminar. There's a guy here we've had on Knuckle Up, a friend of Knuckle Up, Doyle Childs, who has a 360 training center down in Santa Clara here, and he brought Dwayne in for a seminar, and it was great. You know, Doyle is an African American. You know, will Doyle be quick to re-up no matter how good the seminar was? I don't know. Did Dwayne tell him, great, Doyle, could you get away from the white women? I don't think he did. But now that he's been put on Front Street, you know, people have certain sensitivities. If you don't have to work with the guy, why would you, you know? So for Dwayne, what's he got to do? Man, pretty much nothing. Just hope for this whole fucking thing to blow over. Make a few calls. Talk to your African-American. I have African-American friends. Good. Talk to them. Get them to come out and tweet in your favor, something. You know.
Are you waiting for a call, Eugene?
I don't think he's going to call me because, you know, it doesn't help when I say he's always been nice to me. You know, I've said that about Charles Manson. What does it mean when that comes from me, you know?
But you haven't monetized it, so, you know, there's a purity in that statement. So maybe now is the time to...
Yeah.
I believe he did monetize his deal with Manson. Don't wash your hands of the blood.
Hey, there are victims' rights groups out there who don't take kindly to that kind of stuff.
So what about you, Nate?
Eugene couldn't be more wrong about this. For one thing, Faber was just talking. There was no evidence of anything. Bang already responded. I think he handled it pretty well. He pretty much came clean on the women's MMA thing, and I think there's no... I mean, I've said the same thing, and so has Eugene, that we're uncomfortable seeing women punched in the face. I've gotten more comfortable.
I didn't say that.
You did too. Maybe you didn't. But, I mean, I said it in front of you, and you nodded along. I
nod along to a lot of what you say. It usually means I'm not listening.
Seeing women getting punched in the face, and I can see not wanting to coach women with boxing. But that, to me, that's an easily fixed problem because he's a good striking coach. There's plenty of women who are going to want a competitive edge. All he has to do is find a high-profile woman to work with him. He already admitted he's uncomfortable with it. He's not against it. He's just personally uncomfortable with it. That's, I think, a totally reasonable thing. He denied the racism charges completely, and he said Faber's punch drunk. He came out and said Faber's been hit in the head too much, and he can talk on a show as if he's a reasonable person. But if you do business with him, he can't keep track of what promises he's made. He's surrounded by yes men, and to me, that's right back to the he said she said thing of business squabbling. And as long as T.J. Dillashaw keeps letting him coach, and I think he will, and T.J. keeps winning, Bang's gold, man. You coach the UFC champion, just keep coaching, signing new clients. Day by day, deal by deal, the truth will out.
Yeah, except the second. I mean, if you go to a freaking restaurant, you guys go out to burritos, and Dwayne goes, "Hey man, could you cover this? I got the last few." People are gonna be like, here he goes. Here you go. The next time he gets kind of cross swords with somebody and he chests up to the guy and it's like, look at it. Look, I mean, Uriah Faber, you can't meet a more political guy. You know how Uriah Faber said that he would win a lot of his fights if they went to decision? When he got to the venue, he would make the rounds. He would remember. He had dossiers on all the judges. He goes, "Hey, how's your kid? And okay, did she make the decision between Cal and USC?" I mean, he knew everything. He glad-handed his way around the arena. This guy is a consummate, political animal. I think this was a wise move on his part. T.J. Dillashaw is a grown man, can make his own decision, but they got to live with this guy, you know.
But you don't think, Eugene, you don't think that there's any kind of corrective action he could take, or when you said like, the next time, there are all these sensitivities.
Let's talk about David Cameron.
We already had that on the list, Eugene. Curveball. Eugene threw the curveball.
It's called a segue in my world, but okay.
It is. So. Okay, you're accused of putting your dick in a dead pig's mouth as part of a secret society initiation ritual.
This is the LBJ thing. It's not true. Yeah, we know it's not true. We just want to get him to deny it. So does Dwayne Bang Ludwig, does he say this is all horse shit, or like you say, Kid Nate thinks he's done it well, he's done it right. He said he addressed, I feel uncomfortable watching women being abused and beaten. Okay, and the racism thing, I never did any of that, right? There are a few black guys who might disagree, apparently.
He didn't deny that he'd never made jokes, but he said, "Hey, there's lots of jokes in the gym. I'm not a racist."
I thought the best line that Faber had was, "Just because it's funny to you doesn't mean it's a joke." Man, You know, the number of times people could have said that to me, Legion. Eugene, just because it's funny to you doesn't mean it's a joke. Yeah, you know, I thought that was genius, and I think it was a pretty succinct rendering of you know, a clubhouse cancer. You know, but whatever. You know, you start your own team of cancers. I mean, seeing Frank Shamrock at Bellator, I was reminded of, and he's saying, yeah, I'd come back and fight. If I could fight Dana or if I could fight Donald Trump. Okay, his political sympathies are in the right in the right arena. But then I was remembering, dude never had a team. Never had a team, really. You know, I mean, why is that? Do you think that he never had a team? Because Frank Shamrock, it's about Frank Shamrock. You know.
Hey, he had a team with Maurice Smith and TK, the Alliance. Revolutionized MMA, but then they fell apart. So.
Yeah, why'd they fall apart? I mean, this is the thing. You know, sometimes some guys like Dwayne Bang Ludwig are self-correcting problems, and in the wash, we'll see who was right. You know, it'll either be Faber or it'll be Dwayne Bang Ludwig, but it's binary. They both won't be right. Somebody's going to be proven wrong. You know,
so do you think?
Time.
So in terms of T.J. Dillashaw, though, I think it's an interesting dynamic because now you have this situation. You talk about being in between two different strange, like feuding parents almost.
Yeah.
You know, he sticks by Bang Ludwig. Does that somehow rub off on him, or is it a dynamic where he keeps on winning? Does it add a different dynamic to him versus Mighty Mouse? I mean, like, is this now more interesting fight because of the weird racial dynamics? Like, what does he do?
The best thing about this all is because the community is so freaking small that, you know, all these guys have to pass each other in the hallways at hotels, at casinos, and backstage, the rules meeting. So it's just for you know, a confrontationalist like me, it's just a delightful scenario to think of, you know, having to sit next to a guy that you've been blasting in the press and like, oh, hey, there's dude I've been blasting in the press. Hey, there's the other dude who's fucked me in the press. You know, I remember being at a rules meeting backstage at Strikeforce and seeing Nick Diaz just stare at his opponent from about 3 feet away the entire rules meeting. You know, it's like, man, as soon as we signed the contract, you were my opponent. I do not give a shit. So the uncomfortability factor is high. It's wonderful. I'm pretty excited. What does TJ do? He keeps fighting, and the hope would be winning. You know, and I'm sure that's what Dwayne wants.
And he sticks with Bang Ludwig.
Yeah, he has to.
You just don't address the issue at all. Okay.
Yeah.
So speaking about not giving a shit, if you're the UFC, your old nemesis Josh Gross has a scoop in Deadspin alleging that you knowingly allowed Vitor Belfort to fight against John Jones for the title at UFC 152, despite a urine test that showed remarkably elevated testosterone levels.
Elevated, but not out of range.
They were out of range. The T level was out of range. The
really?
E level was. Yeah. There's some very, very strange test results.
Mm-hmm.
These are should have got suspended. These are commission would have suspended the test results if these are indeed the test results, which we have evidence that but we haven't. Nobody's confirmed that these were Belfort's test results. But this looks very bad. These were test results that most commissions would have prevented you from fighting if you had it. So you've been busted. You're the UFC. What do? Do you deny everything?
You know what? It's a non-issue.
It's a non-issue to let a fighter fight.
No. Seriously, it is, and I'm sure the bald one is making this calculation that this has got no legs to it. You're talking about a Hall of Fame fighter, you know, who has well worked past his sell-by date. Who gives a fuck about this guy? You know, who gives a fuck about Belfort? He lost the fight. There was no clear-cut advantage. It's like the Kung Lee thing. Was he taking drugs? Was he not? You know, he loses to Bisping. People don't care. They don't give a shit. It's yesterday's news. Who is, outside of Josh Gross, who is holding on to this story as something of significance? I mean, it is significant, but I'm just talking about the public perception. It's not. It's done.
I think in the aftermath of the Nick Diaz thing, with Nick Diaz being suspended effectively for life, this makes the UFC look really, really bad because they were pushing. Roy Nelson's already accused them of having tried to push him onto TRT. They were acting as the commission in this instance because Ontario doesn't drug test athletes. This was before Nevada tested. Belfort is single-handedly the reason why Nevada pulled the therapeutic use exemption from TRT because he consistently tested too high. And it was obvious from anybody watching him that he was abusing the drug. I mean, and you've also got confirmed loudmouths Michael Bisping and Luke Rockhold endlessly complaining about Vitor Belfort cheating when they fought him and lost to him. So I don't think they're going to be quiet about this.
Actually, the thing that you said that was the biggest and most explosive issue that I heard, and I had not heard before, was that Roy Nelson was urged by the UFC to go on TRT.
No, that's one of Nelson's made that allegation. That's unconfirmed. But,
yeah, right. Nelson made the accusation, but that if that's got legs to it.
But it's also Antonio Bigfoot Silva said it was the UFC's doctor that was giving him the TRT. So there was a lot of indications that they were encouraging people to use testosterone replacement therapy.
But here's the thing, though, is you were talking about situations over the years, right? So, do you think this is going to be, if it becomes this unifying, if they're all unified and brought together, how do you handle it if you're the UFC, Eugene? If it does have
all unified,
I don't say that it coheres into anything of any significance. I just don't. I don't see it. And when it falls apart, when people bring up numbers. We've seen it happen with the SNL crisis. We've seen anytime numbers enter the factor, like 75% of America just checks out. You said, yes, but it was 170 over, 1,700. There was a percentage, and everybody just floats off outside the arena. They're not paying attention anymore, man.
But all they have to do is focus on the bottom line, which was the UFC allegedly was aiding and abetting a cheater to fight while using steroids, the steroid, to elevate his testosterone levels. And
I made it through about half of that before I started wandering and floating above the crowd. I mean, it's of interest to us, but I'm telling you, I got my thumb on the pulse of the street, or something like this.
I see. Well, if you think they can brazen it through, maybe you're right.
No, I'm not. It's not even brazen it through. What kind of heat have you seen come off of this situation? What kind? So thus far.
So far, we've got Deadspin, but I think the interesting thing is going to be what happens when people start asking commissions about this. What's the Ontario Commission have to say about this? What's the Nevada Commission going to have to say about this? What's Pennsylvania going to have to say about this?
There are bigger issues with more heat coming out. In my mind, Ronda coming out shitting on the Nick Diaz thing was pretty mighty. Henry Cejudo, decide, you know what, I'm not fighting in Nevada. Screw Nevada and the commission. Now there's celebrities. What did I read yesterday? Some celebrity came out and said, it
was a Nevada state senator yesterday, I think.
Yeah, the state senator, but there was also like some noteworthy celebrity that I was like, what? What the hell is he? Who was it?
I can't remember. I can Google it. But
yeah, who was wading in? It's like, this is now somebody starting to feel this in the pants, and it's not a good feeling that they're feeling in the pants,
But I think that this issue with Belfort and the UFC, that's going to tie. It's going to catch on with the Diaz story. It's going to be tied because they're going to say, look, not only did Diaz get suspended for life, essentially for marijuana, you're aiding and abetting guys who are using serious steroids to get a serious, real dangerous advantage in their fights. It's going to totally.
The last thing you said there is one avenue that they've kind of exploited that I think actually does have legs.
It was Cat Williams.
Yeah, Cat. Yeah, Cat.
You do me when you said celebrity.
Well, the guy's played Madison Square Garden, I guess, right? So.
No, he is. I mean, he is legit in terms of celebrity and having some kind of name recognition.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though. Instead of thinking about whether or not this is going to blow up, if it does blow up, Eugene, like if you are the UFC and this thing does blow up, how do you handle? Because it's one thing to say behind closed doors, we have other things to deal with, but your reporters are in your face now. Asking about this.
You have got to, just like with any other fire, you have to remove the source of fuel immediately, and that means you get a closed door meeting with those fucking guys at the Athletic Commission, and you release a statement, say, due to discrepancy in the multiple tests for the THC metabolites, we're going to get our policies in order. We are hereby reducing Nick Diaz's suspension to time already served, and final warning moving at something. You got to take the fuel away from the fire. So.
And I think they've already done a lot of it by signing up the partnership with the USADA, the United States Anti-Doping Association. And I think it's possible they knew this story was cooking, and that might have been a motivating factor, because they've taken an enormous 360-degree spin or 180-degree spin from saying TRT is great, we encourage fighters to do it, which they weren't saying, but they were nod, wink, wink about it, and they were just fine with fighters getting therapeutic use exemption for this stuff. And they were just fine letting Belfort fight in Brazil when it was obvious he was roided to the gills. And so to go
Go ahead.
And to go from that and saying, hey, we're tested by the government, and then conveniently fighting frequently in places where the government wasn't testing, now they've got their own more rigorous standards in the government, testing everybody everywhere all the time. I think they've already inoculated themselves against this PR-wise on one front, but now you got the Diaz problem, and I don't think they have a lot of stroke with Nevada as far as getting Diaz any relief.
Oh, you know what? Never say that about Vegas. Never say that about Nevada. You know, I mean, let's go back to Godfather Part 2, where the guy wakes up to find a dead hooker in bed with him. You know, this is. I think also what they say, diplomacy is saying nice doggy until you can get your hand on the rock.
Speaking about diplomacy, drugs, you're Martin Shkreli, CEO of Turing Pharmaceuticals. You raise prices on a needed HIV medication from $13 to $750 a pill. The New York Times puts you on blast. Social media lynch mob follows. What do you do?
Well, you know, you need to finish. The lynch mob follows, and his response has been to throw as much fuel on this, conflagration as humanly possible. Going on with the Twitter war with people.
I'm rich, bitch, he tweeted.
There you go. There you go. I mean,
he said, I think there's room to raise prices even more.
Every single person who's been displaced in San Francisco, when their landlord says, I know you're paying $4,300 a month for rent. How's this? $5,500 a month for rent. See ya. Hello, Oakland. People, I mean, it's just, you know, guys like this are the face of a movement that just inflames everybody. He will not be forgotten in 6 months. It will not blow over for him in 6 months. Of course, he could do what everybody does who sells things. He could say, you know what? I know I said $750. I made a terrible mistake. We're going to lower the price to $350. And everybody goes, wow, this guy's a great fucking humanitarian. He's only charging $350. He could have charged $750. Never mind the fact that the price, currently is what, $17, whatever it is.
Well, it was first $13. So one possibility is he can say, oh, you know what? All this time I was assuming it was $7.50. Someone left out the decimal.
Something. I mean, the point is, if he goes from 13 to 350 because he dropped it from 750, he looks like a king. It won't change all. And I guarantee you, with a guy like this, if I'm going to scratch the surface, there's a lot more shit. How many, in his Twitter feed, how far do I have to go back before he's talking about roofies, champagne and roofies, blowing loads in people's faces,
Putting his dick in a pig's mouth.
Putting his dick in a pig's mouth. How far do we have to go before all that stuff comes to the surface? I mean, Twitter never forgets, man,
So that's interesting in terms of how you advise him and how you would counsel him as opposed to being him in terms of
there's a
putting bigger context.
There's a point at which you have to recuse yourself, and this guy, if his board doesn't know it, this guy needs to be fucking removed and silenced now. Because, I mean, there are people out there who might be sick, who conceivably, as prisoners of conscience, would say, you know what? I do not want to pay. I want to be the first person to die because I couldn't get this fucking medication, and put that on his bill, So,
how about you, Nate?
I think he's got to resign. I think he needs to sell the drug and shut the fuck up. This dude needs to get off Twitter. He needs to stop getting on TV because he's got, with the greasy hair and the smug look on his face, this guy is not made for television. Given what we know about him, he just reinforces every stereotype of a bad CEO. He needs to be replaced immediately. Get out of the public eye, cash his money, get on an island somewhere. This dog won't hunt. Just shoot it in the head. and give up, move on.
Because this guy is not making any public appearance on any of the coast without people showing up, act up, showing up, pies in the face, picketing. You can flip off some of the people some of the time, but you can't flip off all the people all the time.
Yeah.
So he is. They're real people fighting real battles with their health and the HIV issue.
And every
HIV
other
still an
big
issue.
pharma CEO's got to be going, oh my God, this asshole's going to get laws written
Correct.
We're going to get price controls.
Yep.
After all we've been through, all the times we bribed the government, this guy is bringing on the heat way too high. So.
Yeah, if you think if you think the other big pharma guys are waking up this morning and going, what a great day, you're really fucking wrong. I would be hiring guys to say, you know what, you gotta. He needs to have a visit. Somebody. I love that. But my bad guy friends would say, no, it's okay. I'll just talk to him. You're gonna talk to him? No, I just want to talk to him. That's all.
Just talk.
Just talk, man. Just a little bit of talk. I had one guy. His specialty was, hey, buddy, hey, open your mouth. I mean, never do you hear more chilling words when another man tells you to open your mouth, unless he's your fucking dentist, man. You're done.
Well, again, another transition. Speaking of opening your mouth, what about the pig fucking?
Oh yeah, we just skirted. Look, Britain is in great need of a readjustment, man. From this child abuse scandal where you've got guys who are the U.S. equivalent of major senatorial personalities, showing up.
The British Dick Clark, for God's sake.
Yeah, right. Jimmy Savile, and it's just it is a thick and sick poison that and they're trying to William Casey these guys. We're going to arrest him. He's just died. Okay, I guess we can't. Hey, buddy, we're going to arrest you tomorrow, and the guys just die again. So none of this shit is going away. Like, oh, we got a great new pope. Oh, fantastic, Pope Francis. Oh, he's so great. Nobody's forgotten that the priests are out there, screwing children. So, you could do a lot of talk about the downtrodden, and you could hug a lot of lepers. But the reality of it is, if you've had your ass worked by a priest, you're still probably pretty irked about it.
Well,
what about you, Nate?
I think Cameron, especially with Jeremy Corbyn taking over the Labour Party, things are and by big numbers. Now he's got some potential opposition, and Scotland on the edge of devolution. They voted against it last year, but now you got a Scottish separatist party that's bringing the heat. If you're David Cameron, I honestly don't know what to tell you, because this is just the tip of the iceberg. This was not the only secret society he belonged to. Yeah. There's photos that have been banned from publication of him with other Oxford drinking clubs, and this is just the beginning of a long litany of scandals. You also had Rupert Murdoch effectively walking after the whole News of the World, eavesdropping on the phones of murdered children and their parents and all this crap. So the British public, one would hope, is getting pretty sick of their elite ruling class just rub it in everybody's faces, on top of which imposing austerity policies on everybody. So I don't know. If you're Cameron, I think you stick to your guns, but I don't know how long you're going to have those guns to stick to. So
well, he's been there a long time anyway.
And he just got reelected not long ago, and pretty favorably. So I think he rides this out and rolls the dice and bets that people aren't going to go full commie. But he might be in the Lost Battalion.
I think that is a curveball coming.
Uh-oh. The curveball.
Oh, he's using sound effects. He's using fucking sound effects. All right, okay.
Either that or, So you are stationed in Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. You're working with Afghan militia members.
Oh, my God.
To take down the Taliban.
This is a good segue.
Right?
Yeah.
You hear rumors that some of your Afghani compatriots are taking on boys as sex slaves.
Not rumors, you hear
screams. No, you hear it first. You hear it, and then you find out that it's actually true. You go to your commander. Your commander says, "Look, this is a local matter. It's a cultural issue. Mind your business." What do you do?
Man, I read that story yesterday, and that is heavy. They're saying we need them to fight the Taliban. This is, like you say, a cultural issue. It's what they do. Yeah, maybe a cultural issue, but the people in the villages whose sons are being requisitioned for anal sex don't think it's standard operating procedure and want some sort of redress. So your objective is to win hearts and minds. Yes, the fighters, the rapist bullies will be slightly upset they can't continue on with their ways and maybe make common cause with the Taliban. But presumably you're doing this for people in the villages as well, the population that can't do for themselves. And realistically, unless these people are pimping their sons out for anal sex to these Afghani commanders, you got to stop it. At the very least, look at what happened with the Nazis.
Pretty late in the show.
You talk about where's the effect when we need it.
No, when I was saying that Himmler saw the effect that killing innocents was having on the soldiers, and said we need to come up with a better way. Hence the creation of mechanized killing centers where you could only screw up a small number of people. What are you doing to an American soldier that's got to be the common cause behind child rapists, and he's hearing screams in the night and seeing kids chained to beds. What do you think this guy thinks about his mission at that point?
Well, what's fascinating too, I thought about the article was in the New York Times was the claim that the history of the Taliban in that area was they actually took vigilante justice to stop this from happening, and that's why there was a groundswell of support, because finally somebody was stopping this practice. Yeah. So you have this weird dynamic in which you have these super fundamentalist freaks that are doing things that, I guess most people would think would be correct vigilante action. They get crazy. We've tried to put them under the reins, and guess what? We're now enabling the creeps that these weird religious
freaks. You also the Kite
are.
Runner, right? This is exactly the Kite Runner. Remember the Kite Runner, the book in the movie?
If you can do a summary for those who have not.
It's a story about a guy who's Afghani upper class, and he had a friend who was a poor boy when they grew up, and they would chase kites together. And then he got away from Afghanistan when the communists take over. His family left the country, and I could be butchering. It's been 10 years since I saw this, but he found out later that his young friend was one of these boys that ends up being enslaved by these pederasts, and then I believe the son of his friend, when he goes back to Afghanistan, is victim to this again, and he rescues the son of the guy, and it's just horrific and heartbreaking and really, really awful. And I'm not qualified to address what do you do in that situation, because what are your choices? You either sit there and listen to kids being raped, or you turn Pat Tillman, You push the army brass, and you could be at the wrong end of a friendly fire situation. So
that's what allegedly happened, right? They had one guy who he actually beat up
two guys.
So we don't tolerate this.
But those guys were shot by Afghanis, not Pat Tillman was shot by Americans. So it could be coming at you from any direction. All I could advise for those guys, is follow your conscience and pay any price.
This is precisely why I don't know why people are getting exercise or allowing the American press to whip them into, we got to do something in Syria. Look, Russia's in Syria. You know what I say? Russia's in Syria? Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, let them have it. And if you dig into the ISIS thing, we're not really interested in fighting ISIS. We've sent a handful of sorties over and bombed ISIS. We've sent thousands and thousands of sorties against the Shias in Yemen, or allowed Saudi Arabia to do it. Our interest is fighting with the Sunnis, including ISIS. And it's just bullshit and sick, and we need to stay out of the whole area. We're just making it worse and worse.
And I seem to be taking a contrary position on the whole refugee thing. I want people who think that we should take 170,000 refugees into the U.S. I want people to go to a map, and I want you to look at Syria. And I want you to look at all the countries that Syrian refugees had to pass by before they got to Germany. And start to think about why they are choosing Germany and Norway and Sweden. And I'm perfectly okay with.
Well, it's because Nazis rule Hungary, and now they're being routed into Croatia, another Nazi hotbed. It's like there's no. And also the reason they were in Turkey more or less, and suddenly the pipeline got turned loose, and suddenly the media, which has been ignoring migrants drowning on the beaches of the Mediterranean for years now, ever since we blew up Libya. And suddenly there's pictures of a kid with a name, and there's this touching story. And I'm just like, what are they up to, and what are they trying to manipulate us into? Although I do think the U.S. has a moral obligation to take in more Syrian refugees.
For what? Look, let me tell you, if you're
because we started the fucking war that blew up their country. That's why.
I'm looking to the French for this. I'm looking to the French.
The French are about to go full Nazi.
No, but much like the French dragged us into Vietnam, I'm going to have to look to the French for this. But what I'm saying is, look, if you're a grandmother or a grandfather, or you're a child under the age of 12, a woman with children, I'm happy to have you as a refugee in any Western nation. But if you're a man between the ages of 20 and 40, a single man with no family, I'm going to have to say, fuck you, man. Go back and fix your fucking country, please.
So what do you do? So here's the thing.
Because what people, the experiment, look, when people say David Cameron's a right-winger, you have to understand, he's not a right-winger like Ted Cruz is a right-winger. Right-winger in a UK perspective is center-left. Bill Clinton is a right-wing in the UK.
But the austerity is worse in the UK than it is.
Yeah,
they've slashed the benefits, and people are hungry.
Yeah, but they had a deeper hole to get out of. But what I'm looking at is a woman on the beach in Germany getting her jaw broken because she's wearing a bikini.
Those are very serious cultural assimilation issues, but a lot of that the Germans brought on themselves by putting the Turks in the ghettos and not assimilating. The Germans pushed multiculturalism because they didn't want to interact with Turks. In America, kids get assimilated. You don't have that shit to the same degree in America that you do in Europe. And
I still find myself largely distrustful of men between the ages of 20 and 40.
So here's the thing: if you let's in terms of if you did it though. Let's take the tact of having to represent the U.S. military in terms of all these situations first with Afghanistan, with regard to this issue of the boy sex slaves. What do you do? How do you handle that kind of PR issue?
You come out and you say, look, this is an ugly situation. We got in here to help these people because the people that are on the other side are even worse. It's a choice between.
No, that's not going to hunt because we say are the people on the other side chaining boys to the bed, sex slave boys to bed, 12-year-old boys.
You say, look, the Taliban destroyed opium production. We brought it back online. Do you want your heroin or not? That's what you say. The junkies all fall in line, and there you go.
That's some good stuff there. I mean, it's terrible.
I don't know. I just think it's pretty crazy if you look at it. The Taliban had wiped out opium production in Afghanistan. The U.S. takes over. It comes roaring back. We're good for business. What can I say? Good for business.
And how do you handle the Syrian question then?
Yeah.
Man, it's a shit show. I think what we're doing is what you can do because on the one hand you got the Republicans. They won't even let people out of Guantanamo who were arrested when they were 9 and have been shown to have been bought in there just like to get bounties and there's no evidence a lot of those guys ever did anything. They've been in Guantanamo in the worst possible conditions for over a decade, and we're terrified to bring them into the U.S. It's just crazy. I don't know that you can do anything with the Syrian thing, and people have already moved on and forgotten about the Syrian thing. So Obama said we should do more.
And also, and this idea that we should do more. There's a guy, John McLaughlin, who's the former head of the CIA, who writes for Ozzy, and he was like, "Do more in Syria? Do you realize 5 civil wars are happening in Syria? 5."
Yeah, no, I meant do more for the refugees, not do more for. We need to stay the fuck out of the Syrian. We've already aided and abetted Syria into complete rubble, and
I like when America delivers democracy.
Ask any Libyan about that. But the American people don't give 2 fucks. So, what's the new sound effect?
We got the sound effect. I'm not sure if the audience can hear them though. I think it's just us who's hearing the sound effect.
I think they can. Okay,
so it's time for Eugene's Lost Battalion. Eugene, can you give a quick intro into what the Lost Battalion is, and if we have some new individuals added to it?
Tito.
Yeah. Well, no, Tito. He is self-aware.
So if you can do an intro first, like for those who are not aware of the whole Lost Battalion.
The Lost Battalion is an actual thing. There was an actual Lost Battalion in World War II. These guys got separated and then there's a memorial built to them in Queens called the Lost Battalion, and it has a gym and it's like a senior center. And I actually used to work at the Lost Battalion. It was one of the most depressing places ever because old people, specifically old people, spend a lot of time in concentration camps, can be kind of depressing in their waning years, if you could imagine. So the Lost Battalion, for our purposes, is when a guy is dead and walking and doesn't know it, a la Junior Dos Santos after his last fight with Cain Velasquez, who was saying, our next matchup is going to be, and the ref, Joe Rogan, everybody in the audience, even his own team, just kind of nodded their heads slowly and silently, knowing there is no next time for you, sir.
That sounds like Tito Ortiz. Is he in the Lost Battalion?
He's aware. I mean, the thing about Lost Battalion is the thing about the Lost Battalion is you're unaware. You know, you're leading the charge and there's nobody behind you. You know, so we lost Kid Nate. So
now it's our turn.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's the most successful?
I would like to sing a song.
All this headset crap.
That's right. No. So I think the issue is a certain awareness. Tito says, I'm going to take some time to chill. You know, dude knows, man. He knows. You know, don't ask for whom the bell tolls. Tito knows the bell is tolling for him. You know, it's fait accompli for him at this point. So there were no new entrants in. I mean, I would say Linton Vassell, after his terrible performance, you know, against King Mo, might be looking at, but where was he anyway? You know,
right.
People are saying Emmanuel Newton. No, Emmanuel Newton's still significant because he's still a guy who beat King Mo twice. So in other words, I would pay to see that for a third time. I would pay to see King Mo try to get back up. You know, I want to give you a name for the Lost Battalion that's going to shock you. You know, I am saying King Mo is Lost Battalion.
Oh, why is that?
Where's he going to go? What's he going to do?
Don't you think he kind of set himself up? I mean, by losing, he now has an eventual match. I mean, assuming, you know, whoever wins, whether it's McGeary or Davis, don't you think he's going to get the matchup with either? I mean, who else are they going to put the winner?
Yeah. So just because he'll fight one more fight doesn't mean the guy's relevant. He is completely and totally at this point irrelevant.
Interesting.
He's not getting by McGreary. He's not getting by Liam. He's just. I keep looking for the guy. I'm really pulling for the guy. He's an associate, you know, knuckle up associate, not a friend of knuckle up, but a knuckle up associate. And I just keep waiting for him to. Remember, there was all this talk about him and Rampage at a certain point that they were gonna, and that seems more remote than ever. He's just not. He's not picked up the pace. I mean, he doesn't seem like a Czech Congo who's like grappling seemed better over time, or Alistair Overeem who actually took his grappling seriously and it seemed better over time. And you look at his record, it's like, wow, he's actually finishing guys with submissions. His game is not advancing far enough, fast enough. Given the amount of time he has left, it's not.
But when you talk about Czech Congo, like, didn't the Moneyweight fight like add some time to his career? Do you think that maybe even if he fights Fedor, or you know, he's kind of at that weight in which he could do heavyweight matches against guys that aren't too big? Yep. I mean, even though Czech Congo's a big dude, I mean, but still,
he is still relevant. The crowd loves him. His show value is pretty high. He's got the name working for him. But I'm not. You can wear as many tiaras as you want, man. I'm not seeing that there's a lot of thread left in the King Mo thing. I'm just not seeing it, and it's sad for me to say. My kids love him. I like him, but it's just you can't, man. Fumes will get you so far, you know.
Do you think Scott Coker's in the Lost Battalion at all?
No, not at all. He is more relevant now than ever, man. I don't know how it played on TV, but being live in-house for that fight, it was a feast for the eyes and the ears. It was pretty phenomenal. I was geeked beyond measure. Much more so than I was in any recent UFC. The last UFC I went to was the Anderson Silva leg break Chris Weidman one, and the vibe was just different, you know.
And I saw from the Knuckle Up show that you really were loving. You were feeling the announcer with the rolling R's and the pride drama.
Oh my God! You know that you know the thing is that really worked for the first hour. But given that it was a 6-hour engagement, by the end, it really did feel like some kind of weird Thunderdome type thing, man. But yeah, it was the amperage was just, it was crazy. It was great.
Wow. So I think with that, we lost Nate. No new members of the Lost Battalion. We had our Nazi references, sound effects, everything. That is a wrap. Thank you, Eugene.
It's a wrap.
I'd like to thank Kid Nate wherever he is.
Kid Nate.
Are you talking about? Is he Lost Battalion?
Kid Nate, no. He says, click the stop broadcast button if you're in his MMA Nation. I don't know that I am. Are you?
We'll find out.
All right. Anyway, all right. I'm out. I'll see you, man.
All right.
Later.
Take care. Bye.